The air in this cavernous house, once filled with the silent promise of endless gratitude, now hangs heavy with accusation. I walk through rooms I meticulously designed, touching surfaces chosen with exquisite care, and feel only a chilling emptiness. They call it justice, but this is a betrayal of the highest order, a cruel dismissal of a love and sacrifice that should have commanded eternal devotion. My name is Genevieve, and Arthur, he was my husband. We'd been married for 12 years, a decade during which I believed I had built not just a home, but a legacy primarily on the strength of my own profound generosity. Arthur is, on paper, a highly successful tech entrepreneur. A visionary, they call him now. He built a thriving software company from nothing, a feat for which he receives endless accolades. And every single one of those accolades, every dollar in his vast fortune, I tell you, is built upon the foundation of my sacrifice. When we met, Arthur was a brilliant but struggling graduate student, brimming with ideas but utterly lacking in financial stability or practical business acumen. I, on the other hand, was on the cusp of a truly promising career in international relations. My path was clear: diplomatic postings, global impact, a life of prestige and intellectual fulfillment. My family, well-connected and influential, had already opened doors for me. I was destined for greatness. But Arthur had a dream, a spark in his eyes that even then I recognized as potential. He needed capital, a stable environment, and unwavering support to launch his audacious startup. My family, practical and cautious, advised against it. Genevieve, your career is secure. Don't throw it away on a pipe dream. But I saw something in Arthur, a raw talent, a quiet determination. I believed in him. I truly did. So I made the choice. The monumental, life-altering choice. I deferred my diplomatic placement, cashed in a substantial inheritance, and poured every penny into his fledgling company. I managed his chaotic finances, took care of our every domestic need, created a serene and supportive home environment, and even leveraged my family's network to secure his first critical meetings. I was his silent partner, his tireless engine, his unpaid strategist. I often joked that I was the angel investor who also did his laundry. It wasn't just a joke, it was the truth. I was the bedrock upon which his entire empire was built. I gave up everything: my career, my financial independence, my intellectual pursuits, the life my family had groomed me for, so that he could pursue his dream. It was the greatest act of love, of selflessness a woman could make. An unpayable debt. And for a long time he understood. He remembered. In the early days he was constantly grateful, showering me with praise, telling everyone who would listen that he couldn't have done it without Genevieve. He promised me the world. Promised that when the company succeeded, I would share in every triumph, every luxury. He would repay me tenfold. But as his success grew, as the company soared, something shifted. The constant gratitude became more perfunctory. The effusive thanks morphed into a quiet nod. He was still kind, still reliable, but the sense of owing me, of acknowledging his profound debt, seemed to fade, replaced by a quiet assumption that this was simply our life, our shared success. He began to talk about his vision, his team, his hard work, as if my contribution had been merely incidental. I felt like I was slowly suffocating under the weight of his forgotten promise, a rare orchid starved of the very sunlight it had provided. I am a woman who thrives on recognition, on appreciation, on feeling valued and irreplaceable. Arthur's affection, while present, had become routine, almost perfunctory. A polite kiss goodnight, a quiet thank you for dinner. The passion we once had, the undeniable spark, had been replaced by a comfortable, quiet companionship. And comfortable can be a killer of the soul, especially when you are the silent architect of someone else's grandeur, seeing them bask in a glory you truly created. I believed it was my sacred responsibility to remind him, subtly at first, then more overtly, of the magnitude of my sacrifice. He needed to understand that every luxury we enjoyed, the sprawling estate we later purchased, the private jet, the designer clothes, the exclusive art collection, was a direct consequence of my initial selfless act. These weren't mere indulgences. They were entitlements, part of the repayment plan for the life I had foregone. So I started small. When he'd hesitate over a new luxury car, I'd sigh. "Arthur, darling, after what I gave up for you, a new S-Class is hardly an extravagance, is it? Think of the image it projects for your company." Or if he complained about the cost of a charity gala where I ensured he met influential investors, I'd gently remind him, "Remember those lean years, Arthur? When I poured my inheritance into your dream. This is simply the cost of doing business at this level, and frankly, a small price for the stability I gave you." He would nod, usually compliant, sometimes with a faint, bewildered frown, but he'd mostly go along with it. His forgetfulness, which I initially dismissed as absorption, slowly became magnified into intolerable ingratitude. His quiet nature, once thoughtful, became unappreciative. His unwavering focus on his current successes felt like a deliberate erasure of our shared history. And the pressure cooker of my unacknowledged sacrifice had to find an outlet. That outlet, inevitably, was every conversation, every decision, every interaction. I frequently reminded him, both privately and in front of friends, of my pivotal role. "Arthur here always says he'd be nowhere without me." I'd laugh lightly at dinner parties, a knowing glance at him. "And it's true, isn't it, darling? Someone had to believe in that wild idea and actually fund it." He'd offer a tight, almost strained smile, but say nothing, which I took as implicit agreement. It wasn't mean-spirited, not really. Not in my mind. It was just truth. It was just funny. It was our story. It was a constant reminder, a subtle tightening of the leash, ensuring he never forgot the strings that held him. Arthur, being the analytical and patient man he was, initially absorbed my comments with a quiet resignation. He understood my longing for recognition. He had tried for years to express his gratitude through gifts, through lavish experiences, through verbal affirmations. But nothing seemed to be enough. "Arthur, you buy me jewels, but you don't truly see what I gave up," I'd say, holding a diamond necklace to the light. "These are just trinkets compared to a lost career." He eventually stopped trying, retreating further into his work, his presence in the house becoming almost ghost-like. I attributed it to his typical drive, his absorption in his empire. I was too busy living my life, overseeing my kingdom, to truly notice his slow withdrawal. Unbeknownst to me, Arthur, like the meticulous engineer he was, had been noticing the pattern. Not just the escalating financial demands I made, but the relentless emotional toll of the unpaid debt narrative. He started meticulously documenting every instance I brought up my sacrifice, every time I dismissed his current efforts, every veiled accusation of ingratitude. He kept detailed notes, timestamps, even audio recordings of certain particularly cutting remarks I'd made in his presence, or when he overheard me sharing our story with friends, emphasizing my heroic role and his inherent dependence. "I just needed clarity," he'd later tell his lawyer, his voice calm and precise. Her words began to make me question my own perception of our shared history, my own worth beyond her narrative. I needed an objective record. He was building a file, not out of malice initially, but because my constant emotional gaslighting was making him question his own sanity, his own value. He was, in his logical engineering mind, debugging our relationship and finding it terminally flawed. He had also, completely hidden from me, begun a philanthropic venture. A silent, deeply personal project funding scholarships for underprivileged youth interested in STEM fields. He channeled his quiet resentment, his wounded pride, into this truly selfless endeavor. He kept it all completely hidden from me, working late into the night, pouring his energy into it, while I thought he was just engrossed in his usual coding. He paid for it with money I never knew he was diverting from our lavish lifestyle. Funds he had meticulously saved and invested for himself, funds I believed were part of my deserved future. My focus was on what was ours, his was on what was his, and what he was planning. The climax arrived at the annual Founders Gala, a glittering event where Arthur was to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to technology. It was my night, truly. I had meticulously planned every detail, from the guest list of influential patrons to my custom-made haute couture gown. I was slated to give the introductory speech, painting a vivid picture of our humble beginnings and how my unwavering belief and sacrifice made his success possible. I intended to take full credit, of course, for the vision and execution. Arthur was, as usual, my quiet, supportive accessory, looking distinguished in the tuxedo I chose for him. The ballroom hummed with anticipation. The spotlight hit me. I walked onto the stage, a vision of confidence and grace, ready to narrate my version of our triumphant journey. I began my speech recounting my journey, my vision, my dedication, painting myself as the singular, pivotal figure in his rise. I spoke of the immense personal cost, the dreams deferred, the inheritance sacrificed. I smiled at Arthur in the audience, a patronizing gesture, acknowledging his silent debt. Then, just as I was about to invite Arthur to the stage, the projector screen behind me, which was supposed to display archival photos of our journey, flickered. A different image appeared. Not a photo of our early days, but a simple, elegant title slide. The Pillars of Success: Innovation, Integrity, Self-Reliance. A hush fell over the room. I froze, my carefully constructed smile faltering. What was happening? This wasn't my presentation. Then Arthur, calm and composed, walked onto the stage. He held a small remote. He clicked. The image shifted to a graph, a meticulously detailed financial breakdown, side-by-side comparisons of my contributions versus his own early investments and sustained efforts. He clicked again. Another slide. A timeline of his company's milestones with his name and the names of key engineers meticulously highlighted. My name was absent from the founder section. My contributions were listed under household management and social engagement expenses. He took the microphone. His voice, usually quiet, now resonated with a quiet authority that stunned me. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his gaze sweeping over the astonished crowd, completely bypassing me. "My wife, Genevieve, has just spoken eloquently about the journey to this moment. And while I appreciate her presence here tonight, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the true pillars of my success and the values that truly matter to me." He gestured to the screen. "Innovation," he said, and a slide flashed with complex schematics of his early software. "Integrity," and another slide showed screenshots of his company's transparent financial reports. And self-reliance. This time the screen showed a blank white space. "Because ultimately," he said, his voice dropping with an edge I now recognized as cold steel, "true achievement is built not on the perpetual burden of an unpaid debt, but on unwavering personal effort and an authentic understanding of one's own worth." He paused, his gaze fixed somewhere in the middle distance, not meeting my eyes. And sometimes the greatest act of self-reliance is to choose freedom from a debt that was never truly owed. The crowd erupted in applause, murmurs of awe rippling through the room. They weren't looking at me. They were looking at him. At his triumph. My moment, my grand unveiling, my entire carefully constructed narrative, was utterly, completely, irrevocably obliterated. And finally, Arthur continued, his voice calm but with a chilling finality, "I want to announce a new chapter in my life, one focused entirely on genuine contribution, without the weight of past expectations." He glanced at me, a brief, chilling flash of his granite eyes. "It seems some partnerships are better suited to appreciating clear ledgers, rather than enduring perpetual unearned burdens." Then two impeccably dressed men, Arthur's lawyers, approached the stage. One handed a thick envelope to Arthur. Arthur took it, then with a calm, deliberate movement walked towards me. He handed the envelope directly to me. "These are the divorce papers, Genevieve," he said, his voice quiet for my ears only. "My lawyers have an ironclad case detailing years of documented emotional abuse, financial exploitation, and the deliberate creation of an unpayable emotional debt. You will be leaving with a fair, but not extravagant, settlement, based purely on legal statutes and your actual financial contributions. I'm taking the house, and everything in it that matters to me. Goodbye." He didn't wait for a response. He simply turned, walked off the stage, and disappeared into the applauding crowd, leaving me standing there, clutching the divorce papers, my masterpiece, a distant, forgotten memory, my reputation shattered. Now I'm here, alone, in my apartment, which will soon be his. My carefully constructed life, my social standing, my financial security, annihilated. The friends who laughed at my jokes about Arthur, the ones who envied my perfect life, have completely ghosted me. They don't want to be associated with this. My parents are disappointed and don't understand why I couldn't just be happy with what I had, or be more appreciative of his hard work. Everyone is blaming me. Me, the one who was just trying to be authentic. The one who was just living the life I believed I had earned. It's not fair. How can a few necessary expenses, my tireless efforts to guide him, my singular selfless act of sacrifice justify all of this? He's acting like I'm the monster, the manipulative one. But I was the one stuck with the emotionally distant, dull, predictable man who refused to see my brilliance, and then weaponized his petty ledgers and my own aspirations against me. I was the one who deserved more. I was the victim here. And now I'm paying for it. It's truly, utterly unjust. And I'm left to pick up the pieces of a life that feels like it was cursed from the start. A cruel joke played solely at my expense.